Hey guys, Vice Bump here, bringing you this 10.2 Unholy Death Knight PTR update. We got news, and they are generally good. We got class changes, and we got tier sets to look at. So let's do our normal thing, look through the notes, talk about them, discuss how they impact us, what we think about them, all that kind of stuff. First of all, we have some welcome class changes to the Unholy Death Knight. Looking at the note here from the developers, they say that they want to move our burst window away from the 3-minute burst window and into the 45-second ones, and also kind of flatten our profile. This is generally a good idea. I think Unholy has an incredibly bursty profile where a significant chunk of our overall damage just comes from that initial burst window and the one at 3 minutes. And then you do like 0 damage in between, so kind of smoothing that out a little bit, I think, is good and healthy for the spec. Let's take a look at how they do that. So first of all, Unholy Assault now increases all damage dealt by 20% instead of granting 20% haste. I think this is overall a buff to that ability, actually. It's quite interesting. It means that we won't be reaching that insane like 200% plus haste in the opener. But I think it's fine, because even without this, at 30% haste, if you use all our usual stuff like Bloodlust, Empowering Weapon, Unholy Ground, right? At 30% haste, that adds up to 100%. And if you didn't know, we scale quadratically with haste up to 100%. So even removing the haste for Unholy Assault means that we still reach that juice point where like we go above 100%, which is what we want to get full value from it. And this is also really good in AoE. Haste doesn't scale well with Unholy in AoE, so making Unholy Assault deal just increase our damage for 20% is overall a buff. I think it's generally better. Also, 20% haste is not equal to 20% damage, like it's usually lower, so that as well just means it does more damage overall. Pretty nice, yeah, like that. We have a couple of buffs and nerfs here. We have Raised Dead, so main ghoul damage increased by 10%. We have some gargle damage reduced by 30%. This is a significant one. Gargle does a big chunk of that 3-minute burst window damage. Reducing by 30%, I think it's healthy. Will mean that we don't do as much burst. I did have a look at this, by the way. Just going to give you a number. So in the 40-second window, so 0 to 4 seconds, we now deal around 13% less damage. However, overall, this is neutral. So in a 5-minute fight, we do the same damage as before. So, you know, bit less in that initial burst than the 3-minute one, and then a bit more overall. It's not like a huge change where you go like, oh, your burst is going to be like half of what it used to be. No, it's going to be like slightly less, but still. Sorry, let's get back to the notes. We got Soul Reaper damage increased by 20%. Nice, get that chunking. We got Army of the Dead damage of ghouls reduced by 25%. And they now decoupled Apocalypse ghouls from Army ghouls. This is important because previously they were all the same, so they couldn't tune Apocalypse without also tuning Army of the Dead, which is obviously an issue. So let's say, alright, you want to increase the 45-second window damage of Unholy. What do? Well, you can increase Dark Transformation and you can increase Apocalypse damage. But Apocalypse, most of that damage comes from the ghouls, so if you increase those damage, that meant that our burst also increased, so it didn't really work out. Decoupling means that they can now tune Apocalypse separately, which is a good thing. Let's see. So they nerf Army of Dead damage and then increase Apocalypse Ghoul damage by 12%. Not sure if they are separate. So does Apocalypse go -25 and then +12? Don't know. I think it's just increased Apocalypse damage and decreased army damage. Death Call damage increased by 12, Skirt Strike by 12, Festering Strike by 20, and Festering Wound by 10. So that's just kind of like the baseline rotation, getting some increased damage overall. This is good news, by the way, because increasing wound damage and Festering Strike damage is important, because we're quite close to ending up in a situation where you simply ignore wounds at all, except setting up for Apocalypse. So yeah, making sure those abilities actually deal damage, good idea, so we don't want to get any detrimental to gameplay. Alright, overall, as I said, in a 5-minute fight, same DPS, first 40 seconds, 30% less, and then that's built up over the rest of the fight. This has an impact on power infusion value, of course, in conjunction with power infusion actually nerfed. I don't know, 30% less when we do that far ahead, I think we're still going to be a strong contender for getting that. There was someone raised the point that now that we get less haste in open, maybe that haste was worth more for power infusion. That would have been true if we didn't already reach 100%. So if we were at like 80% haste and got power infusion, that would have been better than being at 100% haste and getting power infusion. That's due to the GCD not scaling past 100%. So before 100%, we get GCD scaling and gargle scaling, versus afterwards you just get the gargle scaling. However, as I mentioned before, we still reach 100% haste regardless of power infusion, so I don't think it's going to be that impactful, that specific aspect. Overall, really happy about these changes. You know, they're going to help in other situations as well, like increasing Scourge Strike damage, festering wound damage, going to help a bit in AoE, your main ghoul as well. Like all those kind of aspects are what kind of Unholy brings in the Myth Plus environment, because you don't care about gargle damage in that situation. So generally good, like these changes. Okay, let's move on to the tier sets. And now this is some juicy stuff here. So we have 2 set bonus. Apocalypse summons an additional Magus of the Dead, and your Magus of the Dead Shadow Bolt now fires a volley at up to 4 nearby enemies. This is good stuff. So getting additional Magus with Apocalypse means that our 45-second window is going to be burstier, right? Even spreading out the damage even more. And it cleaving is such a huge deal. Unholy in AoE, right, we are godlike when there's 20 enemies, but if there's 4, we are really quite bad. This is going to help that a lot. Having Magus cleave to up to, so I guess it's main target and 4 others, up to 5 targets, it's just going to be such a big deal in Myth Plus environments, but also like if you have small target cleave in raid, really pumps up a weak spot for us, which I'm really happy about. We've got a 4-set bonus. Each rune you spend increases the duration of your active Magus by 0.5 seconds. And your Magus will now also cause amplified damage, increasing damage you deal by 5% for 10 seconds. Right, this might seem a bit weak, but it's not. The uptime of amplified damage thing is like 75% in simulations. It's really good. So you essentially get 5% increase for like most of the encounter. Also, each rune you spend increases the Magus duration. Well, the Magus deal a lot of damage. Increasing their duration means that they do more damage. And it means that they buff you more. So you get just loads and lots of uptimes on loads and loads of Maguses. If we look at damage breakdown, like your Magus Shadow Bolt is going to be a huge part of it. So Gargoyle got nerfed. We now have Magus just chunking away at bosses, which I think is a good idea. Overall, extremely happy with this set. Not sure if it's a bit overpowered at the moment. Don't think so. Helps us with both spreading out our damage profile, but also helping with like small cleave, which is really important. Also, it's important to mention here that our previous tier set was really burst heavy. So going away from that is going to move even further to getting a damage profile which is more flat. This is not going to be a scenario where Unholy suddenly becomes a spec where it's like kind of like, you know, just a flat damage profile. We're still going to be really bursty. It's, you know, when you talk about these percentages, oh, the max burst goes down by 15%, so on. That's the kind of numbers we're talking about here. It's not like we're halving max burst or whatever. Still, you got to take your baby steps in the right direction because that's where we want to be moving. It's strong to be that bursty, but it's also not always that fun. You'll go like start with a counter, you're top damage, you're blasting, and then it's just all about, you know, a downward trajectory into mediocrity. Don't want to have that really. So I'm happy that we're moving towards a bit more constant damage profile. I'm happy the way they change our damage profile with, you know, nerfing Gargoyle, nerfing Army, buffing everything else. Test set's awesome. I'm happy. I can't honestly think about something which I are not happy about. You might think that amplified damage kind of interrupts the Maguses, but it doesn't. They just keep chain casting and then, you know, amplify whenever that comes off. Yeah. Well done. Let me know in the comments, what do you guys think? Are you happy about this? Upvote, downvote, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.